Hey, good afternoon, friends. Today, my friends, is Saturday, November the 22nd, 2025, and the time now is 2:43 p.m. So, friends, I want to talk about the United States. The United States press secretary for the White House for the Donald Trump's administration. Her name is Caroline Leavitt. And I want to talk specifically about something that she said recently. This pertains to a response to a comment made by the president of South Africa at the G20 summit, in which she referred to the South African president Cyril Ramaphosa as running his mouth a little bit. Now, friends, by now it is no news that we all know that the Trump administration is washed up in controversy or controversies. Whether we are talking about things that members of the Trump administrations have done, the physical action, things they've said, or the thoughts that they've expressed. Caroline Leavitt is one such person who continues to contribute or to add to the controversy or controversies of the Trump administration. Now, friends, in terms of Donald Trump, I'm going to say that the United States is in a very serious situation, a very serious trouble. The Trump administration, as many will say, and we are talking about Americans and prominent observers and commentators on international relations and on things pertaining to politics, administration, academics, and so on and so on. They will say that the US administration currently is filled with people who are mediocre and whatsoever. And these guys have done so many things that, as much as they will make the MAGA and Republican and far right movement look very tough and make them happy, in the long term, what they are doing is they are destroying the United States in various ways. Now, recently there has been a situation between the United States and South Africa, or the president of the United States, Donald Trump, versus South Africa. And this started with the president of the United States taking hits at South Africa. We all know that when Donald Trump came into office this year, 2025, he basically killed or he suspended the USAID. Now, many around the world and in Africa, many Africans dislike the fact that the Donald Trump administration is suspending USAID. However, for me, I am happy about it, and I know there are many who are happy about it. As much as Donald Trump feels that he is offending, he is disrespecting Africans and others around the world, in the long term, what he is doing, Donald Trump is committing suicide for the United States. He is creating a long term harm for the United States, a long term problem for the United States. If the United States doesn't give countries and institutions money for this or that, the United States will not have to dictate to them in any way. If the United States withdraw funding, it forced many Africans and people of countries around the world to force their government to seek alternative or basically use their own resources, natural resources, for the benefit of the people. So in the long term, what Donald Trump is doing is basically creating pain for the United States. Now, when Donald Trump came into power, he took away USAID. He accused South Africa of genociding white people, which it is nothing but false. It is foolishness. He recently was about to go to war against Venezuela, which is still on the table. And in the past week or so, he had threatened to go to war against Nigeria, basically bombing Nigeria swiftly, okay, very quick, to quote unquote save Christians. He threatened to go to war against Nigeria, and it is still on the table. Now, it is interesting between South Africa and the United States. The United States had thrown tantrum and basically insult at South Africa, and basically the president of the United States, the Trump administration, have said multiple times that the US will not participate in the G20 summit in South Africa, which has been the case. Now, the president of South Africa spoke during a press conference that the White House had sent words to South Africa or to the G20 that the White House, even though Trump will still not participate, that the White House will send junior staff members in the U.S. administration to attend the G20. Now, I'm going to pause. I do believe that could be true. And if it is the case, I believe the President of the United States and the Trump administration are only doing that because they've come to realize, as of now, the United States is not the center of attention. As much as the U.S. decided to withdraw from the G20 summit, the United Kingdom, the European Union, countries in Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, Latin America, Brazil, Germany, France, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, all of these countries, even I believe Namibia, Nigeria are taking part in the G20. The United States seems very much, in this case, irresponsible and unimportant. The United States is not the center of attention. In the various summits, just by showing up, the President of the United States and the United States appear dominant. In this case, by the United States not being involved in the G20, especially given that the U.S. president has been throwing tantrum and sending insult at South Africa and the rest of the world and members of the G20. And in addition to that, G20 countries and leaders still decided to show South Africa respect, the respect that it deserves, and attend the summit. The United States basically look weak and unimportant. And I do believe this is why the White House, should Cyril Ramaphosa is right, decide to attend, okay, or send lower ranking members of the administration to attend the summit, to give the United States a present. And honestly, I do believe that Ramaphosa is not lying, because countries in the global south have no reason to lie on the United States or the rich and powerful countries, because then they're going to be in a serious situation. So I do believe Cyril Ramaphosa is speaking the truth, that the White House did reach out to South Africa and the G20, basically having a change of mind. Perhaps Donald Trump will not attend, but a junior member to attend the summit, to basically give the United States a present. So friends, this is what Ramaphosa was speaking about, or speaking of, during a press conference, that he had received a message from the White House that the White House, Trump administration, the United States is seeking to re-engage with the G20, to send a representative to attend the G20. Now, in terms of the United States, at a press conference, one member of the press basically asked the press secretary, okay, the spokesperson of the White House, Karoline Leavitt. She was asked for clarification that the White House is basically seeking to re-engage South Africa and the G20, to send members to South Africa to attend the G20 summit. And Karoline Leavitt basically responded, referring to the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa as running his mouth.
Go ahead.
As a follow-up,
yes.
The Washington Post just reported that the Coast Guard has.
I'm calling on Bloomberg. Go ahead.
Caroline, thank you. Two questions for you. The New York Times is reporting that the administration is now sending a U.S. official to the G20. They are sending Mark Dillard. Can you confirm if that is true, and then also explain the shift in?
I'd be happy to explain, because there is not a shift. The United States is not participating in official talks at the G20 in South Africa. I saw the South African president running his mouth a little bit against the United States and the president of the United States earlier today, and that language is not appreciated by the president or his team. The ambassador, or the representative of the embassy in South Africa, is simply there to recognize that the United States will be the host of the G20. They are receiving that send-off at the end of the event. They are not there to participate in official talks, despite what the South African president is falsely claiming.
Now, we have to be honest here and just speak truthfully. Yes, we know that Karoline Leavitt is someone who is a nobody in the White House. She is a press secretary. She makes no laws, no rules in the White House. She has no influence in the White House, no significant influence in the White House. However, it is certain that we should accept the fact that White House press secretary or the press secretaries of the various countries around the world, to an extent, are aware of what is happening in the situation rooms of their various executive mansion. This is because they are going to be preparing to address the press after whatever happens in the situation rooms of their various executive mansion. What I believe is that Karoline Leavitt saw Donald Trump and members of the White House speaking about the president of South Africa as running his mouth, or speaking about the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, and leaders around the world in a very derogatory manner. This, my friends, I believe is what Karoline Leavitt channel conveyed as she addressed the press during a press conference. So even though she spoke in a very disrespectful manner to a heads of state, I do believe she did not do so just out of her mind. She did that because she had heard something of the sort. She had heard members, higher ranking members, and perhaps even the President of the United States speaking about the President of South Africa in such manner, and that she herself conveyed such message. Now we can say that despite her position, she has no knowledge of international relations and no knowledge of how you address leaders around the world. Most people around the world who work in government are unaware of how to address members of foreign entities. In this case, when they throw tantrum, it comes out in a raw manner as they see fit or as they've heard it conveyed to them by their superior. So I do believe that is what Karoline Leavitt was channeling. Now, in terms of the derogatory manner in which she spoke about the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, we need to go back into history. The United States president have spoke about or two African leaders and leaders of the Global South in such manner. They've interacted with leaders of the Global South in such manner. However, they've been able to veil their interaction or their comments to or about members or entities of the Global South in a manner in which what they are doing appears to be non-insult or much more appropriate. Now, friends, if we can go back into history, there was a situation where and when the United States president referred to African leaders as monkeys and people who do not wear shoes. And there was one event between Richard Nixon, who was the president of the United States, and also Ronald Reagan, who was the governor of California. So speaking about African delegates participating in a UN conference who basically were not toting the line off or the line for the United States. They were referred to as monkeys and people, uncivilized people who do not wear shoes or who are just learning to wear shoes. Now, this comment was basically recorded. So friends, what Karoline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, directed at the president of South Africa is one such event which occurred in the public, and as a result, because she was throwing tantrum, she did not know how to convey her message in a diplomatic manner beyond what they've spoken about in the situation room. It came out of her raw for the entire world to hear and to witness. In this case, it is on record and it cannot be undone. However, I do believe what she did is no surprise. Us Africans, we know this is how African leaders are treated or addressed by the United States officials and officials of the various Western countries and press. However, friends, despite what Karoline Leavitt or any member of the United States administration, the Trump presidency, whether we are talking about higher or low-ranking members of the administration or even Donald Trump himself, despite what they may think of South Africa and Cyril Ramaphosa. Addressing him in such manner as someone who is just running his mouth a little bit. It is derogatory, it is disrespectful, it is unprofessional, it is incompetent, it is mediocre, it is foolishness and pure stupidity. It is undiplomatic. That is not how you, as a press secretary, most especially, should address the head of state of another country. Now, friends, please tell me what you think, and I really want to know what you think. However, my friends, I am going to end here. I want to thank you for being a member of the Echoing Voice community, my friends. But most especially and most importantly, all most important friends, I want to thank you a lot for watching the Echoing Voice. Peace, my friends. Peace.